Hello everybody, welcome to the Mainstream Indie Music channel. If you have ever wanted to travel to Iceland, I know it sounds kind of random, but if you've ever had that inclining, if you've ever liked, vast wide open plains and spaces, please watch this documentary that this video is going to be about. I apologize in advance for my Icelandic pronunciation, I guess you could call it my English Icelandic pronunciation, because it is pretty bad. In preparation for this video, I looked up a lot of the places. I looked up how to say things, how to pronounce things, and I may just mispronounce it through the course of this video. I do apologize sincerely ahead of time if I do so, but this documentary, Heima, is one that I really wanted to talk about this week. Because this week, on this channel overall, we talk about indie music, right? In fact, we have talked about Jónsi so far. Made a whole separate video on him, the lead singer, songwriter, pretty much the heart of Sigur. I've done video on him, and it just seemed appropriate to now make a video on this project that they did as a band completely. So to kind of backtrack, before we get into the documentary completely, we need to set up what was happening around the time that they decided to make it. So the year was it was the mid-2000s. I want to say it was about 2005 or 2006. And Sigur was huge in the underground scene. Nobody had really seen anything like them. Especially, the world was starting to get bigger and bigger in the landscape of indie music in general. People were starting to become more open-minded to, it didn't need to just be the formulaic four-piece band, rock band that only sings in English and, pretty much just one nationality of people over and over again, and rock music, the style, only needed to be played. The world was opening up. People were starting to recognize that talent was out there outside of their own culture, outside of their own state or even country or even continent. And Sigur is a band that really embraced that. They wanted to show the world how talented they really were, and not really getting into a history of them as a band. But if you don't know who they are, or if you don't know too much about them, they are a big Icelandic band. Probably the biggest, I would venture to say. They rose to prominence right at the end of the 90s and early 2000s. And they are known for their instrumentation, number one, their composition, what they put together, and then, of course, the language that they sing in, because it's mixed in and kind of made to be a made-up language. A lot of people think that he pretty much just only sings in Icelandic. He does not. He sings in what's called Hopelandic. But anyway, like I said, we're not here to really get into the band of Sigur. Probably one day we will actually do a deep dive into them as a group. But what happened was, in 2006, like I was saying, they had just finished, a huge tour. Of course, they're going international because they can't really just stay in Iceland. There's really nowhere for them to play to get attention. So they have to go around and tour nationwide and across the world. And so they kind of decided they were done. Not with touring and making music, but they wanted to return home. And that's why Heima is a fitting title, because it means home. And when you watch the documentary, this is not them, choosing to play their music in the biggest amphitheaters, huge TV circuits, places that is going to get their word around. They wanted to play in wide open spaces. They wanted to play in, I think they play in an abandoned shipyard during one cut of the scene. and in open fields, wide in these huge like national parks, where most of their instruments are unplugged. It's stripped down bare to the bone, and it's usually with smaller groups of people. There are definitely a couple of scenes where they play in kind of big crowds, but they really were going for an intimate look into their home country for the first time. Now, what's interesting about Sigur Rós and this documentary is not only what you see visually, but it's what you see or I'm sorry, what you hear with their sound. Because Sigur Rós already had two, widely acclaimed critical albums. And the other kind of part of their mythology that made them so big was their concerts. They really went above and beyond, huge spectacles, lights, lasers, the sound that they made was big. It wasn't a stripped back sound. It was huge. It was meant to be played for huge arenas. And so when they come back home and they play Heima, the documentary, and they're playing those same, astronomical sounds that people are used to during their live shows, all of a sudden, and I mean, you can see an example of it here on screen, they strip everything and they play for like these small groups of people. They play for these small farmers, these small, town folk who probably seen a concert like that before. And it's in the wide open. It's just complete opposite of the sound that they have been going for. One kind of last thing of note is this documentary was not made as kind of like a welcome to Iceland postcard, feature film. It was showing respect and homage for the people that live there, the culture that's there, and the land. I mean, at one point they even did a concert in protest of a huge dam that was going to be built. They wanted to show the world how big and how important Iceland is. It's not some mysterious, weird glacier floating around in the ocean. It's full of culture and full of people. Honestly, barely any of it is in English, but it doesn't even matter. I was blown away by this documentary. The music is just absolutely beautiful. The land and the people are absolutely beautiful. And honestly, I hope that this documentary moves you to go and visit Iceland. What do you all think of it? Have you seen it before? Let me know in the comments. See you next.